under the Events tab on the menu, this is where you can create and add events, where you also can manage events that are coming in from your existing community partner organizations. So you do have the ability to hide events that community partners might be posting to the system. Maybe, maybe 90% of the time they're great, but maybe there's one or two that don't make sense for your students, and you can hide those. So that's all under the manage events thing, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Also here, you are able to see your reservations, or your registrations. So anytime a student registers for anything that's within your group, be it events or activities you've posted, or be it events or activities of your community partners, you're able to see that on your manage registrations area, and you're even able to look at those in calendar view. Sometimes this is really helpful for those that are coordinating service learning activities, because you can look at these in calendar view and filter stuff in calendar view here by seeing like who's registered for what. You can even filter by attended or date. So manage registrations can be a helpful view depending on your program or needs. So there's a variety of things you can do here in terms of managing events. Let's just talk through the add event workflow really quickly. So when you're creating a new event, obviously naming the event, it's going to default to a volunteer opportunity, but you can post it as event. The clear thing to know about the distinction here is that a straight up event will disable impacts. So it allows you to collect registrations and RSVPs, but it will disable impacts. Now you can turn impacts back on as you're setting it up. So let's say maybe it's a training event and you want to post it as an event and give them a training impact. You can turn impacts back on for an event, but it will disable them by selecting event. If you do use fundraisers or ticketed events, if you turn that feature on, those are available to be created here. We just launched a new event called a donation drive that we just added as part of our COVID-19 response. And this is allowing you basically to set up a donation drive to say, we're working with a community organization and we need 100 packages of diapers, and we need 40 baby bibs, and we need whatever, right, for an organization. And then individuals can commit to a certain amount for the donation drive, or pledge basically to donate that amount. That can then be verified, and then you can get an impact for donated goods, right? And then it also helps you track kind of the level of donating goods to an organization. We'll stick with a volunteer opportunity. You can do this in a number of ways. It could be a single day op, it could be a multi-day, reoccurring, random date, or open opportunity. The key confusion that happens here often is the difference between multi-day and reoccurring. A multi-day is a string of consecutive days. So multi-day would be helpful for, let's say, a weekend event that has shifts, right? That's where I would use a multi-day event. I generally would only use multi-day if you have shifts. And why I say that is, let's say you have a weekend event and you set it up as a multi-day, and it starts at 5 p.m. on Friday and ends at 8 p.m. on Sunday. It's going to calculate the period of time as that whole amount of time, right? So just note that. So if it's a multi-day with shifts, the time is only going to be based on the shift. So let's say 3 to 5 on Friday, 4 to 5 on Saturday. Excuse me. So multi-day is really best used with shifts. If it's a reoccurring event, let's say it's a daily reoccurring event, then that's where you're going to use reoccurring. So you'll see on the reoccurring pattern, it could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, right? You also can add shifts to reoccurring things. So it could be, let's say, weekly event that reoccurs on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I want this to repeat for 15 weeks of the semester, right? The one thing to note about event creation is, if you have a scenario where you want students to commit to a reoccurring event, let's say that's Tuesday afternoons 3 to 5, and you want them to commit to the whole track of reoccurrences every Tuesday 3 to 5 for the 15 weeks of the semester, or 8 weeks of the semester, whatever it might be, I would encourage you to set those up as separate events, particularly if there's multiple days. Why I say that? So let's say this is a tutoring event, and maybe it occurs on Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, but you want students to either commit to Tuesday or to Thursday. Set those up as separate events. So say tutoring on Tuesday, maybe in the header, and then have it reoccur on Tuesday. Why I say that is, later in this creation workflow, we give you the option to say, do you want the students to register for the whole track of reoccurrence or the individual dates, right? It basically helps the student because all they have to do is hit register once. It'll register them to the whole track of reoccurrence, and they won't have to register to each individual date. Okay, so that's just kind of a simple nuance in terms of the reoccurrence stuff. Random random dates is the information is the same, but there's no reoccurring pattern. So maybe this event occurs 3 or 4 times during the academic year on different days of the week and a different date. You can set up actually different dates and different times under random dates. Open opportunity is just that. There's no specific time. You're just getting users expressing interest. Open opportunities can also be used as a way to just identify placements for students. Maybe students are doing a project and they're coordinating their own time with the community organization. Open opportunities are good things to use for that because then the student can just say, I'm committed to this placement for the semester, and they can track impacts on that open opportunity. So that's one way of doing that. Time slots is unique and really helpful in some regards. So if you do an open opportunity time slots, this allows you to create a calendar where you're specifying the open availability of the organization or agency to host the student. So let's say in this case, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. When I, as a student, look at this page, it's going to show me either a monthly calendar or a weekly view of a calendar where I can drop and drag and schedule myself out based on my own availability. And then I can even set that up as a reoccurrence. So maybe I'm available Monday 3 to 5, and I want that to recur for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? The time slots can be really helpful. A lot of our campuses use this for coordinating community-based work study programs or long-term service learning placements where a student is kind of going on a regular basis. What this allows you to do is the partner to see what the student is scheduled out, and then it allows them to track the impacts and sort of create regular impacts based on that or a reminder. Then depending on the type of event, if it has shifts, if it doesn't have shifts, you can have maximum participants. You can set different administrators on events. You can have multiple administrators on events, right? This is going to default to whoever is the administrator creating the event. So just note that. And then privacy level is really important to pay attention to when you're creating events. So this little question mark that comes up, basically anytime that you see that, that means there's additional information to help you. And so this defines what we mean by these different levels, okay? So public is gonna make your event searchable on givepulse.com where we started, right? It'll be available to the general public to see and to potentially register for, right? So you likely will probably be posting most things, primary network, private to the Johns Hopkins network, or private to your group of users only, okay? So just note that. The difference between entire network and primary network is entire network could potentially share your activity or event to an affiliated community partner. Generally speaking, if you just want it for the campus community, you're gonna post it as primary network. So it is possible, let's say for one of your subgroups, to create an event that's open to everybody on campus, you're gonna post that primary network. So it's available to everybody on campus. If it's just available to your members only, when you go to post group only, it's gonna ask you about visibility to non-members. So you can show your events to non-members, but they just would not be able to register for it as a non-member. Right? So basically, if you wanna hide it from non-members, you just say hide it on the search page, hide it on the group page. Only your members will be able to see it and register for it at that point. Start address is important for tracking in terms of our heat mapping. So you'll notice that we do heat mapping in the site and we cluster map. We heat map and cluster map based on this start address. So if this is an opportunity that is at an organization or an agency, you are gonna wanna put in that address of the organization or agency so that we're properly heat mapping it and tracking the information. One of the new things we've added here is the ability to create virtual and remote opportunities. Basically, if you make it virtual and remote, it does help you search based on the virtual and remote opportunity. If it has an associated conferencing link or something like that, you can populate that here. We do not expose the conference link until someone is registered and confirms their registration. Then the conference link gets exposed to them, okay? You can choose, obviously, if it's a virtual, it may not have an address, and that's fine. If it's supporting a local organization, then you can put in that address, and that'll help in the search feature if you're looking for virtual remote opportunities within your area, for example. So that's something to just keep in mind there. And then we've added this for the time being. Users can indicate if it is a COVID-19 related event, and then we will flag it and make it a lot easier to search based on COVID-19 response. So let's say you get that far, you can save it. You don't have to publish right away. Your events will save in your Manage Events screen. You can come back and later continue editing that particular event before you publish it, right? So let's just say that was my scenario, and I'm going to come back and edit, and I can continue to work on this particular event. So once you get past that first screen, you'll notice a whole bunch of other settings. Now, keep in mind that most of these are optional, but they are important to know what they do and how they work. And you can also duplicate events. So sometimes it's helpful maybe to, if you're going to be using the same registration settings or the same pre-assessment questions, create yourself a templated event that you just save and don't publish, and then just keep duplicating it, right? That just makes it quicker for posting events, right? Just a quick tip to be thinking about. But each event can have a unique image or logo. If you don't populate an image or logo, it will default to the image or logo of the subgroup or group where it's being posted in the site. You can add additional requirements or details, parking details, perks, whatever you need to add. Again, optional things, but if they're helpful to add to the event, go ahead and add them. You can promote a hashtag for your event or your direct link to a particular website. You can populate social causes. If you don't do anything else in this section, I encourage you to populate social causes for two reasons. One, social causes are going to help the event be more searchable and filterable. But two, they're going to help the organization, help the institution and your particular area report out your impact on these different social causes. So you'll be able to search on your events section or do some reporting on the number of activities or opportunities we did on financial assistance, or the number of impacts or hours on hunger and homelessness. Skills, again, this just makes the event more searchable. So if a user is coming in and saying, I have a particular skill and I want to search opportunities by that skill, optional but helpful. And then if you want to be focused on tracking your impact on sustainable development goals, I encourage you to check those as well. Registration settings. You can have open and close dates on an event, and they can even be set by time. So this is helpful, let's say, for coordinating a lot of registrations all at once for a number of activities, and you can tell students, hey, registration opens on such and such a date at such and such a time. All of the events then become able to be registered. Those events can get published, and the register button will just say registration opens on such and such a date time. And so that's helpful. You can also set a specific close date, which basically disables the ability for people to register. You can set cancel registration deadlines. So if you do not want to allow people to cancel past a certain time, that's with that setting there. We auto approve registration. If you want to approve every registration, you can say approval needed. You'll get an email notification every time somebody registers, right? Guest registration, if you post the event public, okay, and you do not want the user to have to create a GivePulse account to register, just say yes to this. We'll ask them for their first name, their last name, and their email to register. That's also important to note that you never have to ask a user for first name, last name, or email in any application or registration process because you automatically have that information. All of your users are going to be logged in. So we know who that user is who's registering, and we know how to get a hold of them. So you do not have to ask any of that information. Minor registration is just that. You can add minors to events. It does not require an email, just adds their first name, last name. Waitlisting, this is an automated waitlisting process. If the event fills, the register button comes join the wait list, and then the user can join that wait list, and then it'll automate the process. They'll automatically get notified and so forth. Group registration, allows the users to add multiple individuals to one registration. It'll send those users an email asking them to confirm their registration process and come back to the site to complete registration questions or release or indemnification waivers. And so it does not hold the spot for them. Those users have to come back and confirm the registration and agree to the indemnification waiver before they're officially registered. So registration questions and impact questions are pre-assessment questions on an event, logistical questions on an event. Again, it presents you with that form builder I showed you earlier. And so whatever information you need to gather. Impact settings are related after the event is over. So let's say I finish an activity that ends at 5 o'clock today. I had a shift 3 to 5. At 5, we're gonna automatically send an email to that user, and depending on what happened with their check-in, if you sign them in on the mobile app, they'll get an email that says, thanks for attending, give us your feedback. We always give the user the ability to give qualitative feedback. If you have specific questions you wanna ask them, you can populate those on the event level under impact questions. If they're doing, let's say, a food rescue event and you need to know, the items of food they picked up, like these are information you want to gather in terms of quantitative data, ask those questions in your impact questions, right? So not only can they be reflective, they also could serve a real purpose for a particular event or activity. This impact setting allows you to share impacts with other community partners or subgroups in the platform. So if it's a collaborative effort, it'll basically allow those impacts to show up to them. Again, not duplicating them, just showing them. And then you can specify like the type of impact and so forth within each individual activity or event. The event dashboard, very much like the group dashboard, is where you manage the event. So you'll be able to see registrations, message registrants, where you can export impact information, where you can duplicate the event, right? And so this is a really helpful dashboard for managing the particular event. Keep in mind, you can give users administrative access just to an event as well. So then they don't have access to your group, but they're just helping you manage an event, okay? If you give a user access just to the event, they'll see the manage up here in the dashboard, and under manage events, they'll see all the events that they have access to manage, including community partners and organizations. So if you post an event for your partner underneath the Johns Hopkins network and you want to give them access to manage the event, you can give them access to manage the event.